ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ثم أما بعد. Attending a study circle or majlis ilm is one of the highest forms of ibadah. And seeking knowledge is one of the forms of ibadah that we are highly recommended to do. And the ink of the scholar is more precious than the blood of the martyr. And people used to travel for weeks and months to see scholars and listen to them and take hadith from them. And so for those who are in i'tikaf, attending this kind of halaqas is not less than reading Quran or praying. And I particularly chose to make this particular halaqa after Asr because this is a time when people are awake, it's before Maghrib, no nafil prayers. So one of the best things that could be done is to just come and learn something. Even if you don't learn something new, you'll be reminded of something you already know. So this series aims to highlight the life of the great contributors to Islam, great names, big giants of Islam. Some of them are very well known. We talked about Al-Khulafa al-Rashidin. We talked about Al-A'imma al-Arba'a, Abu Hanifa and Malik and Shafi'i and Ahmad. We talked also about some of the Sahaba. We talked about the Muhaddithin, those narrators of Hadith, Al-Bukhari and Muslim and Daraqutni and Nasa'i, Abu Dawood, Ibn Majah, for those who came last year. And this year I intend to talk about some scholars who are great scholars, but they are not as popular. They are popular for students of knowledge. Those who study, they know them very well. Their opinions, their madhabs, their fatwas, their contribution, their tafsir, but not well known to the public. The public know big names like Bukhari and Abu Hanifa and Shafi'i. We hear so much about these people. We talked before about Al-Imam, anyone remember? Imam Abu Ja'far, Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari. Does anybody remember what year he died? 310. Okay, alhamdulillah, at least one remembers, right? Does anybody remember why he was named al-Tabarani? Tabristan, right? Tabristan, good. And do you remember the most important two books he wrote? Do you remember the name? Jami' al-Bayan fi ta'wil ayat al-Quran. Jami' al-Bayan. And the other book, he wrote many books. As we said that every day he used to write 40 pages for 40 years. He wrote his tafsir 40 years, 40 pages a day. And the other great contribution was
the history of nations and kings.
History of nations and kings. Tarikh al-Umam wal-Muluk. So he's a historian, mufassir, a linguist, alim qira'at, historian, and so on. So today we'll talk about someone who also may not be very well known to the public, but he is very well known to the fuqaha, the muhaddithin, and also well known to the Sufi groups. He has all these qualities. He is a person with a high level of taqwa, and people can see his taqwa and iman, and when he walks, everybody has great respect for him. And he was the scholar of his time. I'll mention his name because it might be kind of difficult to know. His name is Hasan al-Basri. Al-Hasan, al-Imam al-Hasan al-Basri. He was born 2 years before the assassination of Umar, radiallahu anhu, the year 21. Right? He was born in Medina. And you can imagine, when he grew up with the Sahaba around him, right? Muhajirin and Ansar were there. His mother used to serve Salama, the wife of the Prophet, radiallahu anhu warda, al-Mu'mineen, Salama. And Salama would send sometimes his mother, while he was a baby, to get something for her. Go to the market and get buying stuff and things. And Al-Hasan would cry. So Salama, just to cool him down, she would nurse him until his mother comes. Right? This is Salama al-Mu'mineen radiallahu anha, who narrated so many ahadith. And many said perhaps the great knowledge and hikmah and wisdom he has is because of this nursing. His mother used to send him, just dress him like a young boy, and she let him go in the masjid so the Sahaba would see him. So they would carry him and play with him and pray for him. And Umar radiallahu anhu prayed for him. He asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying, Allahumma faqihu fi din. Ya Allah, make him a faqih in deen, wa habibhu ila nas. Make people love him. Beautiful dua from Umar radiallahu anhu. And the rest of the Sahaba used to, as I said, carry him and play with him. He grew up in Al-Madinah and he witnessed, of course, the assassination of Uthman, because Uthman died or killed in the year of, anybody? 35. So how old was Al-Hasan at that time?
14.
Huh? Are you good in math? Okay. But he was born in the year 21 and Uthman was killed in the year 35. All right? So it was about 14 years. 15 years. He was aware of what's happening, and he then moved to, like most of the Sahaba, I forgot to say that he is technically one of the Tabi'een. So Sahaba, those who saw the Prophet ﷺ, first generation. And those who came after are called Tabi'een. Tabi'een is the followers, right? Second generation is called At-Tabi'in. The third generation is called Tabi' Tabi'in, the followers of the Tabi'in. The followers of the followers. So you have Sahaba, Tabi'in, and Tabi' Tabi'in. And he got the title by Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. He is called the Imam of the Tabi'in. Because he was the first generation of the Tabi'in. He was born. He did not see Umar, obviously. He was only 2 years old when Umar was assassinated. But Umar used to pray for him. So he was known as the Imam at-Tabi'in. So when we talk about Tabi'in, the head of the Tabi'in is Imam al-Hasan. This is how important he was. He moved to Iraq. And where in Iraq? Al-Basra, obviously, because his title is Al-Basri. So you have three main cities in Iraq, or many of them, but three ones are very important when it comes to knowledge and science, especially knowledge of Quran and Hadith and Fiqh and language, Arabic language. There are two famous madhabs in Arabic language, in Arabic grammar. One is called Al-Basri, Al-Madrasa Al-Basriya, Madrasa Al-Kufiyya. Al-Basriyun said, but Al-Kufiyun said. Right? So you have two madhab, and there used to be a very big competition between them. It's like Cambridge and Oxford in England, Harvard and Princeton here in America, something like this. He went to Al-Basra at the year 37. All the fitna happened and Uthman was killed, and we talked briefly about what happened before. So in the year 36, he went to Al-Iraq. And Iraq at that time was a place of many of the Sahaba. In fact, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud are the founders of the Iraqi school of thought, from which Imam Abu Hanifa came. So Imam Abu Hanifa, his mentality is, or his fiqh is very close from the fiqh of Ali and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. They both lived there for long. Ali ibn Abi Talib, as we know, he moved to Iraq and he died in Iraq. He was killed in Iraq. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud lived in Iraq for so long, and they established this school that called Madrasat al-Ra'y, the school that not only based on narrations, but also based on analogy and reasoning. Imam Malik, of course, in Medina is different. His madhab is based on narrations because he knows all the hadith and wrote al-Muwatta, and he knows the fatawa of the Sahaba, and he had this bank of information. So Abu Hanifa does not have that much ahadith and narrations, but he relies on human reasoning and analogy. So Al-Hasan al-Basri, when he moved to Al-Basra, of course he met so many scholars, and when he was 16, 17, he started giving khutbahs and fatwas and so on. One of the things that you need to know about Imam al-Hasan also is that he was super eloquent, very eloquent person. And Aisha radiallahu anha heard him one day speaking in the masjid in Medina. And she said, who is this speaker? His speech is close to the speech of the Siddiqeen. And others said, actually, his statements, sounds like the hadith, like a prophetic words. Very wise, very eloquent. As we will see, we'll quote some of his words. Of course, when he went to Al-Basra, he listened to the Sahaba. He met the Sahaba who lived there. And he actually participated in jihad for 10 years. So these people were not just sitting in the masjid doing nothing, disconnected from the society. They don't know what's going on in the world. They know everything. But they made a choice to be scholars and to have taqwa and to focus on their ibadat and so on. And later on, he was hired as the great mufti of Al-Basra. He was the most famous scholar there in Basra. So when Al-Basra is mentioned, Al-Hasan is the man. Another great scholar, we may talk about him, inshallah, his name is Muhammad ibn Sirin, who is known, he produced so many books, but the most famous book for him is Tafsir al-Ahlam, how to interpret dreams. He was very good in this, Muhammad ibn Sirin. We may talk about him later on. He was so eloquent. People liked his speech. His speech was short, but very focused and eloquent. And Imam Hasan al-Basri, one of his characteristics is that he was always seen sad. Always. They used to say that every time we see him, we think we just came from a musibah, something happened, like someone died from his family or something. When something bad happens, how people look, he was always like this. He always think about death. He always think about the grave. He always think about hisab. He always think about standing before Allah. He always think about hell or heaven. He always think about this. One day he passed by young youth who are just laughing. When youth come together, you like to say jokes and they laugh. And then he looked at them and he said, did you get a guarantee from Allah that you will pass the sirat? They said, no. You get a guarantee that Allah will protect you from the hellfire? He said, no. So why are you laughing like this? Let's take it easy. He says, and then he said, we laugh sometimes, we laugh and have fun, and we didn't know. Perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looked at our deeds, and he said that I will not forgive you. Perhaps. This may happen. And the opposite is also true, by the way. Maybe Allah looks at you when you are doing some sort of ibadah, whether sadaqah, despite the fact that you need the money, or prayed 2 rak'ah in the middle of the night and nobody saw you and you cried out of fear. Maybe Allah looked at something He likes, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and says, khalas, I forgive you. No matter what you do, you are one of the people of Jannah. But we don't know that. But we also don't know. The opposite could be also true. Maybe Allah saw you doing something, committing a sin, lying to people, and Allah tells you, I'm not going to forgive you. But you still have like 50 years to live or 20 years to live. But it's written. Allah knows. So he has this kind of mentality that we should not feel secure unless, as Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal said, I will not feel secure if Abu Bakr said, if one of my feet is in Jannah, the other foot out, I will not be secure until both of them are in Jannah. then you have full security and comfort, and you don't have to worry about anything. And another day he was seen crying, and he was asked, why is this crying, Imam? He said, I'm afraid that he will put me in the hellfire and then he will forget about me. وَلَا يُبَالِي. Allah does not care about you anymore. Just take him. It's just one word. Take him to Jahannam. That's it. No appeal, no lawyers, no second chance, nothing. Could this happen? Technically, yes, it's a possibility. And if this is a possibility, one should not really feel secure. When he was asked about why he's always sad, and he said that we ought to be sad if you know that death is coming. The day of judgment is your appointment. Standing before Allah is fixed. Then you should be sad. Now, this, of course, not to say that one should be sad and doesn't enjoy anything of his life, but for him, this is what overwhelms him. This is the main thought or theme of his thought. One of his piece of wisdom, he said, Ya ibn Adam, innama anta ya. O son of Adam, you are nothing but few days. You are nothing but few days. When a day passes, part of you is gone. And when part of you is gone, eventually the whole will be gone. Right? You have just a few days. When the day passes by, then part of you is gone, and eventually all of you will be gone. A young man came to him one day and he told him, Ya Imam, I tried to pray Qiyam, but Qiyam is so difficult. I mean, I cannot pray Qiyam. I tried, but it's tough. And he said, this is because of your dhunub. Your dhunub made you heavy. And that's true. When you commit sins, the more you commit sins, it's like shackles, like this, like iron balls in your feet. You cannot walk because it pulls you back. So he said, your dhunub prevents you. You are deprived from such honor of Qiyam because of your sins. One day, a man came to him and told him that some people come to your lectures with the intention of finding mistakes. That's the intention, not seek knowledge, just okay, he made a mistake to go. Oh, you know, Hasan Basri made a huge mistake. His aqidah is, like we mentioned on Tabari, they accused him of having wrong aqidah and put him in house arrest. The scholars, not the scholars, I mean the followers, the fanatic Hanbalis. Fanatic Hanbalis put Imam Tabari in house arrest. He was not allowed to give a lecture in the masjid. Nobody's allowed to visit him. And that's such a great giant. Spent the last few years of his life under house arrest, sitting home alone, writing until he died. This is what fanaticism does to this ummah. They are Hanbalis. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, of course, reject them. But they are followers of Hanbali, and because Ibn Jarir Tabari said something different, they spread all these rumors against him. So someone came to him and he told him, Ya Imam, some people, by the way, be careful, because some people come and they try to find any mistakes and go and tell people about it. He said, listen, my hope, I talked to myself and I convinced myself that my hope should be Jannah and to escape from the hellfire. And I was talking to myself, hoping that I will please everybody, but I give up. People are not happy with Allah. People are never happy with their prophets. So you expect people to be happy with you? Everybody, I mean, you'll be mistaken. He told him that. So don't worry about this. I know that you cannot please everybody. Imam Qatada, the great professor, also said, I never talked to any scholar unless I saw the favor of Al-Hasan upon him. Everybody learned something from him. All scholars learned something from Al-Imam Al-Hasan al-Basri. He used to have two study circles, one at home, private for scholars, and the other one for public in the masjid. Hadith and fiqh and tafsir, Arabic language, and he has plenty of students. He saw, as I mentioned, many of the Sahaba. I mean, some of them, Nu'man ibn Bashir, Jabir ibn Abdullah, who was also young, in the age of Abdullah ibn Umar, Ibn Abbas, who was also young. So he actually, Abdullah ibn Abbas was young. When we know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when the Prophet died, he was almost 14. So he's maybe about 20 years older than him, or more. And he met Abdullah ibn Abbas and talked to him and took his knowledge. Of course, when Al-Hasan al-Basri went to Al-Iraq, just to give you the political context, at that time the Umayyads were the rulers, and we all know what happened, and assassination of Imam Ali, and killing of Al-Hussein, all these troubles. Al-Imam Al-Hasan was the wali. He was appointed by Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who was known as the fifth rightly guided caliph, Khamis al-Khulafa al-Rashidin. He appointed, and he said, and he gave him the title, Sayyid al-Tabi'in. You are the Sayyid of the Tabi'in, and he hired him to be the governor of Al-Basra. He tried to stay away from politics. He did not want to get into these revolutionary actions and fighting against the Umayyads, because the Umayyads were not fair, were not just, they were strong. And so many groups and tribes tried to oppose them, and Abdullah ibn Zubayr in Mecca and Medina, he was Khalifa, while the Umayyads were Khulafa in Damascus for 5 years, and we know he was killed eventually. And the movement of Al-Hasan al-Hussein radiallahu anhu against the Umayyads, and so many others, Qaramita, and so many other movements that tried to remove the Umayyads, especially when Yazid came to power. He was against military revolution. We said just, the corruption of the Umayyads is better than the wars against them, because this actually brings more evil than the evil of the Umayyads. That's his understanding. That's his understanding. And that's absolutely true. We have seen this in the modern time. When people in Syria now, they say, Assad was a horrible dictator, but it's much better than today. Saddam Hussein was a horrible dictator, but it's a million times better. Iraq is a million times better than Iraq today. And so on. Egypt, the same thing. And so on and so forth. So his opinion was not to go and fight the Umayyads. However, he was not a coward. He used to speak against every evil they do. And this bothered them so much. He's against military revolution or resistance against them, but at the same time, every time they do something wrong, he speaks about it. And the Umayyads actually hired someone, one perhaps is known as the most evil person in our history. His name is Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. He was a butcher. He kills very easily. And he came to control Iraq, because Ali was in Iraq, the Shias of Al-Hussein was in Iraq, so he said, I'm going to send to them someone to shut them up. And they sent Al-Hajjaj to Iraq. So Iraq, he came as a new governor of Iraq. He came to Baghdad, and usually the governor gives the khutbah. He came and he stood up, and he gave the Friday khutbah. Everybody came to listen to this man that everybody knows is very tough, does not have any mercy or leniency. He kills. This is how we solve problems. Anybody, it's like a mosquito comes, just kill the mosquito, that's it. He gave a khutbah in which he said, Ya Ahl al-Iraq, Ya Ahl al-Nifaq. Listen to me. I see heads here that riot, and it's time now to pick it up. And nothing will fix you except my sword. And I swear by Allah, I will order you all to exit the masjid from this door. Nobody exits from this door. And if someone dare to exit this door, I'm going to kill him here and now. And it was that tough. And every time, even if you suspect someone that's again, just go and just kill. Just fix the problem by killing. He's the one who came actually to Abdullah Zubair in Mecca, and he threw stones at Mecca, at Al-Kaaba, and destroyed Al-Kaaba. And he killed Abdullah Zubair and he crucified him for 2 weeks. This is how brutal. Our history is full of brutality. Forget about what others did to Muslims. What Muslims did to Muslims was horrible. Who was right, who was wrong, different story. But this is how he dealt with it. And of course, has some ulama and scholars, yeah, that's right. Give them fatwas. It's okay to do this. Anyways, so when Al-Hajjaj came, he heard about Al-Hasan. And Al-Hasan criticized Bani Umayyah for what they do. And his analogy is that as a scholar, you cannot remain silent. Someone has to speak. Someone has to say the truth. Even if he got killed, that's fine. Others can remain silent, that's okay, but for scholars, they should not remain silent. And Al-Hajjaj said that you heard him, to his people, you heard him saying this and that about me, and you just remember nobody. I said, this man has a great personality and gravity. Nobody would dare to just speak back to him. Everybody respects him. He said, okay, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to him. And this is what he does. In his palace, when he wants to kill someone, he bring him in and bring the sayyaf. Sayyaf is a job, like mu'adhin is a sayyaf. Sayyaf is the one who uses the sword, the one who cuts heads, basically, the one who executes people. This is the job, called sayyaf. And they bring a big piece of leather, and they put the person in, and then he have a brief discussion with him, and then he gave the signal, and the sayyaf will come and just cut him off his head. And why they put this piece of leather called, they call it a nata. So a nata, so that the blood does not go everywhere and reach the furniture and things. So just to keep it dust clean. This is how he does it. He called the sayyaf, and they prepared this nata. And he called for Hasan. He sent his police, they brought Hasan. And this is the moment of the truth. Al-Hasan had no doubt, and people have no doubt, that's it. And then he was walking in, and the guards, one of the guards saw him saying few words. He saw his lips moving, saying something that nobody can hear. Then Al-Hasan was sitting on his couch, and Hasan walks in and says, Salaam alaikum. Full confidence. What's the worst thing they can do? Kill him? It's going to be shaheed. So what? These people, are not scared of death. Noble people are not scared of death. So, when Al-Hajjaj saw him for the first time, he heard so much about him, but saw him for the first time. He said, his nickname is Abu Sa'id. So he said, Abu Sa'id, come, sit here. And everybody was surprised. They were sitting here. This is a great honor to. He said, sit here. And he came. And he asked him a few religious questions about Al-Hasan. I gave the answer. And then he called for musk or oud, pure. He called, and he actually put it on his clothes and on his beard. And he said, okay, now you can go if you want. And then he walked out peacefully. Everybody was so surprised. And what's unique about Al-Hasan, as one of his students said, when someone told him his Maslama ibn Abdul Malik, the Khalifa was asked this man, Maslama ibn Abdul Malik, about Al-Hasan. Said, tell me about Al-Hasan Basri, after his death, of course. He said, you know what? No one can tell you about him than me. I was his neighbor, next door neighbor, I was his student, I was assistant, I was like one of his family. So I said, okay, tell me. He said, to summarize, this man, his inward is like his outward. From outside is exactly what's inside. You remember we talked about this before in a number of khutbahs. But some people, their outside looks beautiful, looks very religious. When people look at it, oh man, this man is so have a lot of taqwa, a lot of hair and a lot of taqwa. Wrong. Taqwa is in the heart. You know, I've seen many people look like saints and then liars. They lie and lie and lie and lie and lie. Lying for them is just a piece of cake. Big liars. You don't consider lying to be a sin. But he said this man, his inside and outside are the same. When he orders people to do something, he's the first one to do it. When he prohibits people to do something, he's the last one to do it. So, this guard who saw Al-Hasan Basri walking out of the palace asked him, I saw you moving your lips, saying something. What did you say? You must have said something that the Greece saved you. It turned out it was very good, unexpected. He said, number one, when I walked to Al-Hajjaj, I remembered the greatness of Allah. So when I looked at Al-Hajjaj, in my eyes it was like a cat, a pussy cat. When you remember the greatness of Allah, you shouldn't be scared of anything. And what I said was, Allahumma ya waliya ni'mati, wa malathi fi kurbati, ij'al niqmatahu alayya, bardan wa salaman, kama ja'alta an-nara bardan wa salaman ala Ibrahim. Beautiful. Beautiful dua. He said, Allahumma ya waliya, you are the only provider for all blessings I have. And you are the only one I turn to in time of hardship. Make his anger upon me peaceful and cool as you made the fire cool and peaceful to Ibrahim. That's exactly what happened. These people are prophets and not prophets, but they're very close. Allah said to the fire, be cool and peaceful to Ibrahim. And this story of Ibrahim is not just a story just to fill our time with. And you remember it. In these difficult times, the real iman will come out. If someone has a real iman, then he'll be standing firm and strong. Allah will guide him, guide his words, his actions. At weak, people are just like so scared. اللهم يا ولي نعمتي وملاذي في كربتي اجعل نقمته بردا وسلاما علي كما جعلت النار بردا وسلاما على إبراهيم. He used to write to Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. He was a just man. He ruled only for 2 years. He was like Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali. He was like them. From Bani Umayyah, but subhanAllah, he was totally different from. And he knew Bani Umayyah did a lot of dhulm. A lot of dhulm. They did a lot of good things as well, to be fair. They did a lot of good things. But Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he was the Amir of Medina. His uncle was Amir Mu'mineen. And his wife's father was Amir Mu'mineen. He was the Khalifa. So his uncle was the Khalifa, his father-in-law was the Khalifa, and then he was chosen. His father-in-law was a righteous man, and he knew that his own sons are corrupt. And he chose Umar, who's not his son, his nephew, because Umar has much more taqwa and more qualified. And this is something actually important. That because usual people choose based on loyalty, not based on qualifications. And that's a source of corruption. This is what causes corruption. When people are placed, not because they are qualified or unqualified, but because they are loyal. This is what all corrupt governments does. And that's a source of corruption. Rasulullah ﷺ said, whoever appoints someone as responsible for public responsibility, and he knows that others are more qualified than him, then he committed khiyana, betrayal to the community, to Allah, and to His Messenger. People should be hired based on qualifications, not based on loyalty. So Umar ibn Aziz, when he came to power, the first thing he did, he told his wife, bring all your clothes and jewelry. Very expensive. She is the daughter of the Khalifa. And her uncle was a Khalifa, and then her father became the Khalifa. So she grew up in these palaces. And she didn't know what he intended. And he brought all these things and he sent it to Baytul Mal. He said, this is not your money. Where do your father get this money from? Where do you get this money from? This is a mal of Muslimin. Returned everything. His own clothes, his own properties. He said everything should go back to Baytul Mal. And he lived like Umar, his grandfather, great-grandfather, by the way. So his teacher was Hasan al-Basri, and he used to write to him. He said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, do not be like someone whose master entrusted him with the money and his children, like someone who has a servant or a slave. Then he traveled and he said, my children, my money is amana for you. And this servant or slave, he wasted the money, and kids, everybody went somewhere, and he destroyed the family. He said, don't be like this man. Because Allah has given you, are the slave now, that Allah give you the amana. You should take care of the money of the people and the well-being of the people. Right? So it's amana Allah has given to you. You are responsible. Like his great-grandfather, Umar radiallahu anhu, saw this lady with kids in a tent, crying. And he went and said, why these kids are crying and you're not? She said, what do we do for Umar? Allah is between us and Umar. He's like making dua against him. We have no food, to feed these kids, crying out of hunger. And he said, but how would Umar know about you? You know what she said? She said, how come that he take responsibility and he does not know about us? Does not know about us, this is his problem. He said, yeah, you are absolutely right. And he cried. He told his assistants, come with me. He went to Baytul Mal and got the food, and this wheat and oil and stuff, and he went himself and he carried this on his shoulder. And his son said, no, Amir al-Mu'mineen will, no. He said, you are not going to take my dhunub in the day of judgment. I will be carrying my sins in the day of judgment. Nobody will carry it for me. Now let me do this. He went and he started cooking. He made fire. Started blowing into this fire to grow so he can cook. And the man said that I see the smoke going through his beard. That was a good beard. Anyways, and he cooked for them and he fed them. He spent the whole night with them. And the man told him, Khalas, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, let's go. I spent so much time. He said, no, I'm not going to leave until they laugh. I came to them crying because of me. I'm going to make sure not only they ate, but I want to make sure they are happy, they have fun. And these are people who understood what it means to be responsible for others. He died in Rajab in the year 110. That's easy to memorize, right? So that's Imam Ibn Jarir Tabari was 310. Imam Hasan al-Basri died in the age of 110. He lived how long did he live? How old was he when he died?
79.
No man, you go to public school?
89.
Huh? Yes, almost 88. 88, almost 89. and filled his life with taqwa and teaching. And they did the funeral prayer. He died on Thursday, and the janazah was after Jum'ah. And if you go to Basra in Iraq now, people can lead you to his grave. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the soul of Imam Al-Hasan Al-Basri and grant him great reward for all his contribution to Islam and Muslims. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gather us with them in the Day of Judgment. Although we are not even close from them, but we love them, and we hope that our love to these people will be enough, inshallah, to gather us with them in the Day of Judgment. Comments or questions before we go?
So Rabia Basri was sister of Hasan Basri, or she was Rabia Basri?
I couldn't hear you.
I'm saying that Rabia Basri,
Rabi'a?
yeah, was she sister of?
Oh, Rabi'a al-Adawiyya. Oh. It's known as Rabi'a al-Adawiyya, right? You are the worshipper. Yes, they lived at the same time, and they used to have like messages sent to them. Yeah.
But they are not brother and sister?
No. Because the word Basri and Basriya, there are millions like people in Basra. So everybody lives in Basra as Basri. Everybody lives in Baghdad, you can call him Baghdadi. Everybody lives in Mecca, Makki. So it's not like the same family. It's a title given based on the place in which people lived. Right? So
The adhkar, what we do, is it compiled by Imam Hasan Basri?
the what?
The adhkar?
Adhkar? No, the Adhkar mentioned books of hadith. The Prophet ﷺ used to say this Adhkar.
I saw his name in that compilation.
I don't know. I'm not sure about this. Oh, you mean Hasan al-Banna? Oh, no, Hasan al-Banna is a different story. Hasan al-Banna is the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, 1928. That's totally different. You are jumping like 1400 years, 1300 years. تشابه أسماء. Yes.
Any scholar,
Huh?
revolution, you mentioned this scholar was against revolution, right? Was there any scholar who was for revolution?
Well, this subject actually, there is no like ayah or hadith people can quote and end of the story. It's based on the circumstances. Yeah, Imam al-Husayn, who has more knowledge and taqwa than Imam al-Husayn, the grandfather of the Prophet, the grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has knowledge, has wisdom, and based on the circumstances, he found out it's time now to stop this evil. Stopping evil should not lead to a bigger evil. So the ulama said that if in the process of changing one single evil, causing a bigger evil, just leave it. Right? So every situation is different. So Imam Hussein decided to go, to fight against the Umayyads. Because he thought he has a lot of followers, he has enough power to overthrow them. But it turned out that those who promised him that will fight with him, they did not fulfill their promise. Yes?
What made him so popular with the Sufis?
Because of his taqwa, his iman, his ibadah, his khutbahs, his wisdom. So they always quote him. They find him as a leader. A person who has knowledge, when I mean knowledge of fiqh and hadith, and also have great deal of taqwa. Because not everybody has knowledge of fiqh and hadith, have taqwa. That's why Imam Ghazali was revolutionary when he wrote his book, Ihya Ulumuddin. When he saw that people are focusing on fiqh mas'alas, how long your beard should be, and how short your pants should be, and this is taqwa. I said, no, that's nothing to do with taqwa. That's not the knowledge that people should seek. The knowledge of Allah, knowledge of Al-Akhirah. So Imam Hasan was the kind of person who has both, like others, like Sufyan al-Thawri and Awza' and others. So that's why he was a real example, role model for everybody. His zuhd, abstinence from dunya. He not care so much about how luxurious his house should be and how much money. These people rise above all these things. Majority of people, they enjoy this, they die for these things. But the more knowledge, the real knowledge they have, taqwa, and they say, our life is too short for this. like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not just this. Dunya was the last thing they think about. Last thing they think about. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. Okay, last questions. If I say the dua, no more questions will be taken. Yes.
How did he support himself financially?
He was hired. I think he has a job. See, Muslims in the golden age of Islam did not let scholars go and work. Scholars don't have to go have a part-time or full-time job. Their job is to produce knowledge. And that's more than a full-time job. Like Imam Tabari talked about. This idea of scholarship, Muslims were pioneers in it. Part of the zakah and part of the endowment. They have endowments. So student of knowledge, if you are brilliant student of knowledge, don't go and work. Don't go and sell and buy and things stuff. Use your talents, your knowledge, produce knowledge that will help millions of Muslims. It's something we're missing here, very much. Very much. So they have this endowment. Imam Abu Hanifa. As we mentioned before, he has brilliant students. The most brilliant two of his students, Muhammad ibn Hasan